people on the other side.
About the President of the United States.
I know what you're asking.
Who assigned blame entirely to one party. When you know the facts show that sadly, people claiming affiliation with both left and right have committed horrible acts of violence.
Sure. But you know what? If the roles were reversed, Democrats, rightfully so, would say Republicans need to tell people on their side to calm down. I have not seen a significant number of Democratic leaders calling for people on their side to calm down. And again, I have seen a ton of social media posts of people applauding this. That's insane to me.
But that's actually not true.
This is Beyond the Ballot, where silence meets strategy and spin gets shut down. What you just heard was Shermichael Singleton, refusing to play along with CNN's favorite game, the idea that both political sides share equal blame for the climate we're living in. On the surface, that framing sounds balanced. But let's be honest, every time violence is directed at conservatives, the establishment media rushes to spin the story, to gaslight viewers into believing it somehow traces back to Donald Trump. And that's the cycle we're watching again. Instead of reflecting on the rhetoric that fuels anger in their own ranks, many in the press pivot back to the same script. The tragic attack on Charlie Kirk should have sparked real soul-searching. Yet the narrative machine quickly returned to its comfort zone. Blame Trump, demand that conservatives tone it down, and shield progressive allies from scrutiny. If you're finding this breakdown useful, hit that like button. It helps more people see the analysis. The result? Rather than accountability, we get excuse-making. Instead of leadership, we get interference. And when CNN panels lean on this pattern, led by hosts like Abby Phillip and supported by progressive commentators eager to echo the line, viewers are left with more spin than clarity.
There are some people who spend all their time just trying to whip up the base, and the result of that is something really toxic for the country.
Look, I heard the congressman on there saying, we need to tone down the rhetoric. Well, will the rhetoric get toned down? I mean, again, I go back to what was on the bullet from this kid was fascism, and that's only coming from one side currently in this debate, and it's on every placard and every poster around the country. I mean, I think it's a valid question, but are they going to live up to what they say they're going to do with the Nazi and the fascism and the like?
Do you think? I don't think we know. Just to be clear, I mean, just law enforcement people. I don't think we know the meaning of his message. We know his history.
Ballot is an anti-fascist thing. It says fascists catch this.
Then I'll give you his history. Then I'll give you his history, right? Think about his history. His history, but this is not the
Why are we debating that? This is what I'm
that's what I wanted to tell you. This was my point, not yours. This was my point, not yours. The point is, who cares? A man was killed. And you have yet to say political violence is bad, period. That's all that people want from the president. That's all. And we're getting this spin up of the you and this and what. Stop counting. Stop looking, because you're not going to divine a perfect motive in this case. I think we're looking for it. You're not going to divine it.
It's almost unbelievable to watch Abby Phillip and her panel act shocked that anyone would dare connect the dots. For years, leading Democrats have leaned into fiery language, calling opponents fascists, warning of dictatorship, and framing every policy dispute as a battle for the nation's soul. So when a left-wing radical attacks Charlie Kirk, the reaction from many in the media isn't accountability, it's denial. And it's not the first time we've seen it. After the near-fatal attempts on Donald Trump in 2024, the same playbook rolled out. Gaslight the audience, deflect responsibility, and somehow blame the victim. It's a pattern that tells you everything. The very people who claim to oppose victim blaming are quick to use it as a tool when it shields their side from criticism. If you're finding this analysis useful, make sure to hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. Here's the deeper truth. Acknowledging that heated rhetoric has consequences would mean admitting fault, and that's a line too many are unwilling to cross. So instead, the blame is shifted back to the very people under attack. That's not balance, it's strategy. And it explains why Democrats and their media allies lean so hard on portraying Trump and his supporters as monsters. Because once you brand someone as less than human, it's easier to excuse what comes next.
Let me ask you tonight, do you think Donald Trump is a fascist?
Yes, I do.
This is what kicking the shit out of fascism looks like.
Try to prevent the spread of the lawlessness and the fascist chaos that's been unleashed against us.
So when we say Donald Trump is a fascist, fascism, a huge component of fascism is uniting racism, bigotry, a form of racist nationalism.
We are now living in a fascist dictatorship.
And we are worried about potential rise of fascism in this country. We're worried about our democracy falling to an authoritarian and potentially fascist form of government.
Not only to roll over to Donald Trump's will, but to roll over our democracy and allow him to take over this country as a fascist dictator.
When fascism isn't just coming, it's already here.
The former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Mark Milley, said, "No one has ever been more dangerous to this country than Donald Trump, and he is a fascist to his core."
One of the most common tactics in today's debates is whataboutism. But here's the difference. When Democrats launch their attacks, they rarely qualify them. The message is simple. If you don't publicly condemn Donald Trump and fall in line, you're labeled a fascist, a threat to democracy, and written off as part of the problem. That language has consequences. FBI data shows that threats against conservatives rose by more than 40% once this rhetoric became mainstream. And it's worth noting the contrast. When Trump speaks, he points to the extreme fringe, leftist radicals, those operating far outside the political middle. He doesn't lump in everyday Democrats. But when the left speaks, their brush is much broader. Their smear doesn't stop at the fringe. It covers anyone who doesn't conform. And that blanket label creates permission for radicals to see people like Charlie Kirk as fair targets. If you're finding this breakdown helpful, don't forget to like this video. It helps push this analysis to more people. And here's the reality that gets overlooked. Charlie Kirk wasn't some fringe conspiracy figure living on a compound or forming militias. He stood for what most would recognize as core conservative values: pro-life, pro-Second Amendment, pro-secure borders, pro-fiscal responsibility. In fact, polling shows that 60 to 70% of independents agree with many of those positions. Those aren't fringe ideas. They're mainstream. But inside the left's bubble, the spectrum is skewed. If you fall anywhere to the right of Mitt Romney, you're painted as far-right, dangerous, or disposable. That's why so many in the political establishment seemed blindsided after Kirk's death. They had believed their own narrative, and when reality didn't match, they were caught off guard.
We've been hearing about that baby Hitler question. If you had the opportunity, would you kill baby Hitler? Well, the bubble that this guy lived in had him convinced that's what he was doing, that he would be heroic. Let's face it, if Charlie hadn't been killed, in 10, 15, 20 years, he would have been president. He had the talent stack, no question. That office was for him. So the left created a moment that taking out Kirk was like taking out a baby Hitler 2.0. I've said this on the show over the years that when you brand someone a Nazi or a fascist, you put everything on the table to stop them. If you don't stop them, you are immoral. You have to do everything you can to stop a Nazi or Hitler or a fascist. Could have been any one of us, but I'll tell you, it never would have been Colbert or Don Lemon or Morning Joe because, again, they aren't called fascist or not.
The pattern is familiar at this point. The left ratchets up the rhetoric, paints conservatives as villains, and when violence breaks out, the response isn't reflection, it's deflection. Gaslighting and whataboutism become the tools of choice. We saw it after the unrest that left billions in damages and lives lost, and we're watching the same cycle repeat now. What's more troubling is the double standard. While conservatives are told to tone it down, some online voices take tragedy and twist it into mockery, even celebrating or commercializing it. That disconnect explains why the right is mobilizing in ways we haven't seen in years. From Reagan-era conservatives to America First populists, there's a recognition that Charlie Kirk stood for the foundation of mainstream conservatism. And that's the key point. If someone like Kirk, who represented core values like pro-life, pro-Second Amendment, pro-secure borders, and fiscal responsibility, can be attacked and vilified, then no conservative voice is truly safe from being targeted. Kirk's visibility and success at spreading that message made him a symbol. But the implications reach far beyond one man. If you're finding this breakdown valuable, don't forget to hit that like button. It helps push this analysis to more viewers. The lesson here isn't to retreat, it's to stand firm, to use civic power and constitutional rights to draw a clear line. This kind of rhetoric and violence has no place in American life. The question now is whether the political climate has crossed a point of no return. Can it be pulled back, or has the damage already been done? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching Beyond the Ballot. Don't just watch the headlines, look beyond them. Subscribe and join the conversation. See you next time.